Okay, so people who have more questions, I would request you to put your questions in the Excel sheet where I will attend that first instead of ad hoc questions, so that people who have put in the questions there will get their answers. Okay, so welcome again everyone to the third session of the BW for HANA 2.0 training. We will see what we did last class and then we will go from there. Okay, so what we did in the last class is we created a remote source, Smart Data Access remote source. We created HANA virtual tables, and then we also created our material dimension calculation view. So we'll continue our journey from there. So we are basically dealing with native HANA modeling, which we will eventually use in the BW side once we go to the BW. Okay, so let's continue that. Again, I will request you to put yourself on mute. Let's not take questions in between the class. I will give maybe 1 or 2 opportunities after an hour or so for you to ask your questions, but we have a dedicated session again post the class, so we will try to answer most of the questions there. Okay, so let's create our plan dimension. So our requirement was, what was our requirement? We'll create a material dimension, then we'll create a plan dimension. Then we will see how a table function functionality is used in native HANA modeling. Then we will create a transaction data CV, which will be your cube CV. And then we will see some other quick tricks like renaming a CV, how you do that, copying a CV, how you do that, moving a CV, how you do that. And then finally, we will create the final CV, which will combine your material dimension, plan dimension, and your transaction data into one CV, which will be cube with star join. So we'll see that. And then table functions we will already cover here. So I'll remove from here. Then we will also see database procedures, access job, scheduler configuration, and finally some theory on node types and purposes in the modeling. Okay. So let's continue with our plant. So I'll just close this. We'll start afresh. Okay, I think there is a connectivity lag. Okay, let me close this and open it again. Okay. So we'll close the material dimension. We will start afresh. Okay, what we did was everything we were doing in this particular package. This is a structural package. I already explained what is a structural package, and this is checked out to my local machine. So before coming and doing anything, what was the best practice? Best practice was remove from client your particular package. Okay, and then you continue again by checking out. You check out the package, and that will have a tick mark on all the sub packages also, meaning you have now refreshed your local objects with the server object, which is the latest. Okay, so now we have the calculation views. So we only have one calculation view. Now we'll create the second calculation view. So we'll say new CV. Again, this is a dimension calculation view. So this is a master data for plant. So we'll say ZCV underscore plant. Label, we can leave it as it is. Same thing. Calculation view. Package is this one. Type is standard, which is fine. Graphical, yes, we want graphical. We don't want cube. This is a dimension because it is a master data calculation view. So click on finish. Okay. So again, because this is a dimension calculation view, the top node automatically came as projection node. Okay. So we will not use projection directly as a best practice. So what we'll have to do is do a projection again. Okay. And I'll just minimize this to have a better screen real estate. So we'll minimize this. Okay. So we have more space now. Okay, so what we have here is a projection node. So I'll hover over it. There's a plus symbol. I'll click on that and we will use our plant. Can somebody tell me what is the table for plant?
T001W.
Yes.
T001W.
T001W. That is the table which will store plant details. And why I'm putting STA? Because I'm using the staging table. You can also use virtual table, but to keep it consistent with the material dimension also, we will use the staging table which we created. So there are a lot of staging tables because lot of other people are also doing the same thing which I showed. So I will use my one, Devanshu underscore BT2. This is the schema and this is the table name. So we'll click on OK. And just rename this projection node by clicking on it twice, and we'll just say T001. Okay, so we have all the details of the plant. So MANDT is the client. We will select that. We will select the actual plant, WER cares, works, and then we'll select the name one. Name one is the plant description. You can rename a column if the name one does not sound good to you. It does not provide a meaningful name or not a meaning. You can just rename it here. You can just say plant underscore description, plant underscore DESC. So you can rename that. Then we will have what else? We'll have something called plant address. Okay, I want the address of the plant also. Where is it located? What is the address? So I can't see that here. I know the field name is ADR something. So if I can't see that, what you can do is you can click on the top header row here. Okay, and then start typing ADR. The moment you start typing there, it will filter the columns for you, and it will show you that particular column which will match your typing the alphabets. And this is the one which I am interested in, ADRNR, which is the address number. So you can cross this. My purpose is solved. We are back to all the columns. So we have ADRNR, which is our address number for the plant. This is not the description yet. This is just the address number. So it will be a number there. Okay. So our main plant is done. That's all we need. We don't need any other fields. Then the address description I need. So this is the address number. So let me quickly show you the data in this particular table. So if you want to see the data in this table, you can right click on the table symbol, not on the projection, on the table. You can right click there and you can say data preview. So that will show the data preview from the table itself, not on the projection node. You can do on the projection node also, and you can do on the table level also. So this is my table. So I'll quickly go to analysis. It's already analysis. There is a small arrow here. Just click on that. It will give you options to filter the data here. Okay. Then what I will do is I will bring in works. Okay. Go to the table here. You can see works. What else we selected? We selected name one, right? Name one is basically your description of the plant. And then we also selected ADR. So I'll just filter it out here. ADR. Just type ADR and then we will select this and we'll put it here. Okay, so this you see here, this is number. This is not a description of the address. This is just a number of the address. And if you want to like filter on this particular, so you can just you can copy this particular value. I'll just copy it from here. Okay, close it. And then if you want to filter it here, I'm just showing you the functionality of the filter pane here. So you can just drag in ADRNR in the filter pane, and then you can go to advanced filter, not the basic filter. You can toggle the filter there, and then you have to bring it again, and then you can filter your ADRNR here. So in the analysis pane, this is a good way to analyze your data. If you want to filter it, there are a lot of options. You can do equal to, you can do not equal to, lower than, greater than. So there are a lot of options you can play around in the data preview itself. Okay. So we will have this ADRNR handy. We will see why, because this ADRNR I will use to show you the table function also. So let's keep this number handy. Okay. All right. So you can see that ADR number is a number. Now we need a description for that. So how do you take the description for the ADR number? There is another table which we materialized. We'll go there and we will get that particular description from that table. So again, a new table means a new projection node. So I'll just drag in the projection node here. Okay, just hover over it, add, and then you have to add sta underscore ADRC. Okay, we materialize another table called ADRC, which will contain the description of the address. So our schema is this one. So we'll choose this one. Okay, okay. So now it is ADRC. Just rename the projection here to ADRC. Okay, done. So now we have one projection node which has the plant details, one projection node which has the address details. Okay, we have to join them, right? So we will use the join node here, just drag it in here, put the join node there, and then join your T001W and your ADRC. Okay, before we do that, from ADRC, we haven't selected anything on the output, so we have to select that first. So we'll choose the client. Client is nothing but the same MANDT, which is there in a T001W. And then we have the address number, which is the common field. ADR, NR there is nothing but your address number here. You will select date from, because address can change, right? Today my plant is on a certain address. It might shift to another address. So that's why there's a time dependency. And that's why I'm selecting date from, date to, and then finally name one. Name one is the description of the address. So again, this name one is not a meaningful name. So I'll just rename that. So I'll rename this to ADDR underscore DSC description. Okay, one second. DSC, yeah, there you go. So I've renamed this to address description. So now it is address description. Now we have all the fields which we need from the ADRC. Now we will join it with the join one. We'll drag it in the join one. So our join one will now have both P001W and your ADRC. Okay, there you go. So now what we'll do is we'll quickly get some more space on the right side. And there, what you have to do is, so what I'll do is I'll select everything from the left side. Again, I want everything from the left side and only the date from, date to, and address description from the right side. So I will say add all to output. So everything from the left side will be added. Okay. And then I will right click in the white space and I will say create join. So we are in the join window. Now let's select the left table and the right table. So the left table is T001W. Right table is your ADRC. Okay. And then we will have client to client. So MANDT to client here. And address number to address number here, because the address number is the key field in the ADRC. Okay. So address number from the T001W goes to address number there. And from referential, I will select left outer join because I want the functionality of everything from here and the matching ones from here. Cardinality, I will leave it blank. I don't need to define it. HANA will automatically calculate that. If you know that, yes, you should define it. As a best practice, you should, if you know it. But if you don't know it, you can leave it blank. So we'll leave it blank. Okay, so we are done here. So it's a left outer join. Now what we'll do is we'll click on OK. Let me get this. Okay, we'll click on OK. VDI is slightly slow today. I don't know why. Okay, so our join is done. Then what we'll do is we will join it to the main projection node, which is the top projection node. We will drop it here. And then we will just right click and say auto layout, which will tidy it up. So we'll click on auto layout, and our calculation view is almost ready. Now the final thing which we'll have to do, okay, it's taking a little bit of time. Yeah, okay. Projection, go to projection. You can see the yellow triangle. Yellow triangle means there is nothing in the output. You have not selected anything. Okay, so even in join one, we did not select the description of the address. So let's go to join one. You see, we have selected everything from left side, but we forgot to select from the right side. So what we need from the right side, we need date from, we need date to, and we need address description. Okay, and I'll tell you why I'm selecting date from and date to, because there's a time dependency. Address can change based on the time, right? So for 5 years it was an address A, and for next 5 years it's going to be an address B, and for next 5 years the address can change. So there's a time dependency component here. Okay, so we have selected everything. Now let's go to projection. And then I'll just right click on this and I'll say add all to output. Okay, so everything is added in the column. The yellow triangle is gone. Let's go to semantics. Okay, so everything is of type dimension. Okay, the type of column is dimension. If it had been a transaction data, which is a measure, you will see a orange symbol here. The blue rhombus here means it's a dimension. So everything is fine. Let me save it. Control S for saving it, and then Control F3 to activate it. So it's activating. Okay, let's see if the activation completed successfully. Yes, activation completed successfully. Okay, now let's do a data preview. Okay, let's see what data is there. Oh, no data. It's blank. Why?
Session client or cross client, sir?
Sorry?
Session client or cross client in properties of semantics.
Yes, correct. So I'm glad you identified it very soon. So default client is... Guys, can you please be on mute? Humble request. If you're not speaking, I request you to be on mute. Thank you. Okay, so the reason the data is not coming is because of session client. But what's the problem? Session client is a correct value of default client, right? It's one of the acceptable values, cross client or session client. Then why session client is giving blank values?
Since the table belong to S4 HANA, and the table belongs to different client basically. MNDT is different.
Different. Okay. So I am able to do a right click here and data preview. That's working fine for me. I'm getting all the MA and DT. No problem there. But why my CV is not able to get it?
Because we are doing a join here, and
okay. So what is the problem in the join?
ADRs.
Here we are connecting this mandate to this other table client, and if it is different, so it won't show the correct.
No, client is same.
Yes,
so see,
your BW client cannot match with the client number of the BW workings. That shouldn't be here, right?
BW is not in picture right now. We are in the HANA database. BW is not even in the picture. Yeah, tell me. You are right. It is something to do with the client, but why session client is giving blank? So if you want to see what are the clients in ADRC, I can show you. This is the same client numbers. If you go to raw data, see 100 is there, 200 is there. So if I want to see what are the default values or the distinct values rather, sorry, we have 100, 400, 300, 200 and 000. Same client is there.
So, I guess like in our HANA, a native HANA database client is different what we have in our staging table. So that is the reason it is not.
So where can you check native HANA client?
There is no client at all, no, in native HANA.
No, in native HANA there is no client. Client concept is there in the SAP tables.
SAP tables.
Yeah, then why session client is giving me blank? Anyone? Is BJ there? BJ, are you there?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a NetWeaver related clients. Usually
NetWeaver.
doesn't.
There is no
Ah,
NetWeaver right now. We are dealing with native HANA database.
But your source is NetWeaver, right?
My source is my staging tables, simple tables which I created in HANA database. There is no ABAP layer right now. There is no NetWeaver.
Hey, Devanshi, can you?
Yes, BJ, tell me.
Oh, okay. Hi. Yeah. I remember you telling me this once, but I think it's because you're. I think it's because your logged on session in the properties of your logged on session. It's there what you can store as what client you're sort of logging on to.
So you're talking about this user properties.
Yeah, whatever whatever session you've logged in as.
You are almost right. Yes. So if I go to properties here, we talked about the language, but there is no client here. So here properties, there is no client, but you're right. You're right. Okay. So let me tell you why. So what BJ said is correct. What he's saying is the user property should have something called a client or a session client or something which says client or session client. Now here we cannot see the user properties, okay, in BW4 user, because there are two types of properties. One property is your logon properties. This is your logon properties. Here you will find language because that is usually given at the time of logon. Okay, my locale is German. But there is another set of properties for the user. Where can you see that another set of properties? In security, if you go, and in user, if you go, if you try to find the user, BW4 user, this guy where I'm logging with, now you double click on this and that will take you to the user properties inside HANA database. These are not logon properties. These are properties like authentication, password, SAML, etc. Roles, what roles the user has, what privileges the user has, and there is something called as session client in this property. Now, what is the value of the session client? Blank. So if this session client value is blank, that means your CV is passing blank to the tables and there is no client with the value blank. So I have to either do cross client, meaning it should accept, it should not pass the client, it should get everything, whatever the client is. That is the setting we say as cross client. But if you want to keep it session client, then you have to come to this property and you have to provide the property, say for example 200, and save it. Oh, there is an error which says insufficient privilege. I am not able to provide client. Anyone? Why I am not able to provide client for the property?
You are logged into the same user and you are trying to change the same user.
So what's the problem with that?
You can't do that, right? Basically,
Correct. Exactly. The same user cannot change his or her or its own property. Okay. If that is allowed, then you can give yourself super admin privilege and you can do anything in the system. So that is not allowed. Some other user has to give you the privilege or the change the, and that user should have necessary privileges. It is usually the super user or the admin user. I have another user, so I'll log in with that. Okay. That user should go to security. That user should go to users. Find that particular user, which is your BW4 user. Go there and now change the property of session client to 200 because that is the main client from ECC. We have other client also 100, 400, but the main data client where data is there is 200. Okay. So I'll click on change and it says user changed. So that means some other admin user or super user should change the user for you. And now if you try to access the CV data preview and go to raw data, now the data comes and only for 200 the data will be automatically filtered. This is the concept of session client or client. If you want to restrict based on a particular client, you have to make sure that the property of the particular user has the session client enabled. But as a best practice, it is tedious to go to every user ID and change the property, right? If suppose the client changes to 300 from 200, then you have to go inside every user and then change that. That's tedious. So we don't usually do that. So what we do usually is to bypass the client filter completely and choose the cross client that will accept all the clients, and then you activate it. Okay, so now what I will do is I'll also remove this session client. We'll move it back to blank. Click on change, user changed. So I log off from the super client, super user, the admin user. I'll log off from there. I'll just deal with the regular application user. And then we will just remove this also. So let me make sure I activated it again. Yeah, I think I activated. So let's do the data preview now. And this data preview will now give you everything now, not just 100, 200, but all clients came up, whatever client is there in the base tables. So that is the concept of cross client. Why it is useful? Because when you go to quality, when you go to UAT, when you go to production, there usually you will have only one client. So automatically this cross client will take care of it. You don't have to deal with changing clients. Okay. So basically what we did was we joined the material, the plant with the address. Now we took a particular address here. Okay. So we will try to filter on that, this one. Okay. And we'll see what data is there. Okay. So for this particular address number for plant 1710, we have 4 clients. Okay, so let's filter on the main client, which is 200. Okay, so we have only one data. That means the address never changed. The address never changes from start of the time till the end of the time. Okay, that's the date from and date to. And the description is your address name 1. Plant 1710, address name 1. Now, the requirement is, let's see the requirement. So this is the requirement for the plant address. Plant address is different based on the validity, valid from and valid to. That means plant address can change. That's why we have the valid to and valid from. So we have to pick the plant based on current date. And current date should be between valid from and valid to. That is the requirement from the client. The client is saying that the plant will have 2 records. One will be based on one validity, the other one will be based on next validity. And you have to pick that record. Whatever record, current date should fall between that record, and if that condition is satisfied, pick that record. Okay, this is called time-based join, meaning also another name is temporal join. In HANA, this is called temporal join. So if there's a requirement like that, which will say, so if I have to satisfy this requirement, what I have to say? I have to say from T001W, I will take the MANDT should be equal to adrc.client, okay, and my T001W ADRNR should be equal to ADRC.ADDR number, and current date between ADRC.date from and date to. This should be the technical implementation of this particular requirement. Okay, this we already have. Client equals to client, address number equals to address number. This is the problem. This is not an equal join. This is a non-equi join. and this is, it should say between this and this. So this is called temporal join condition, or sometimes also called time-based, time-dependent join. Now, if I go back to my calculation view and see my join, go to this join. Can I do this in the graphical way? Can I create this particular condition in a dimension calculation view graphically? Can I do that? Anyone? How do I do that graphically if there's a requirement?
There is something called as temporal properties. Is there some option there?
Okay, good observation. There is something called temporal properties, but it's grayed out. I cannot select anything.
Is it a join type that you had to select?
Okay. What do I select as join type?
Inner join.
Inner join. Still grayed out.
Do that in the cube based.
No,
It's
I'm
a
talking
text
about
join,
dimension
isn't it?
CV. Forget about cube right now. We are not dealing with cube. Tell me in dimension calculation view, how will you achieve the temporal condition? Is it possible or not possible?
The text join, is it?
Dynamic join, if you click on, does that activate?
Okay, let's see. Dynamic. No, still grayed out.
One thing is, if you can have input parameters, then we can have those dates, and then based on it, we should have a date and then restrict it.
We can filter the base table, the standard table.
Based on what?
Based on this current.
We don't have any. We don't have anything called current date. Sorry.
Now I'm just thinking, like, if you just put cardinality 1:n, like.
Okay, still grayed out.
Oh.
Still grayed out.
Do you have to select? Do you have to select a date from and date to as well? I mean, otherwise, how will you make a temporal?
But I cannot select. No, it's grayed out. Date to date from, you can select in the from and to column, but it's grayed out for me. Okay.
You can pass, you can have an input parameter and then use that date in the date from and date.
Yes, that is an alternate way. You can use an input parameter, but I don't want to drive it via input parameter and filter. I want to drive it via join, temporal join, like this, in the join condition, not in the filter condition. So if you have a requirement like this, you will go for what? Table function.
Function.
Exactly. This is your code. If you have certain conditions you have to satisfy, one of the condition is temporal join in your dimension series. Say for example, cube with star join allows that temporal condition, but that also will allow only one. If you have multiple, like you have to have and plus and plus and plus and multiple temporal conditions, your even cube with star join cannot allow that. So there also you'll have to go for table function. Or if you have to access row tables, if there is a requirement from the client that you access row tables, not column tables, you cannot use row tables in a graphical calculation view. Technically not possible. So if you have a requirement to access row tables, go for table functions. These are the two most frequently used scenarios for table function. Okay. So now what we'll do is, so this is not possible graphically because this is grayed out. We cannot use temporal properties here. Even if we were able to, if I give you one more and, then also you cannot do this with one because this will only allow one temporal. And dimension does not allow it. So then we'll go for something called table function. Before doing that, okay, before going for table function, what we have to do is we have to insert one more record here and we have to change this date from and date to. We have to have two records. One record will end on 31st of July and the second record will start from 1st of August till 9999 1231. Okay, so that's what we have to do. So first we have to insert a record in this particular ADRC table. So what we'll do, we'll go to the catalog Actually, I can first what I'll do is I'll click on show log, where I'll see the generated SQL. Okay, and I will copy this just for my, not the entire thing, actually just the filter condition, because I want to just deal with this particular address number and client 200. So I'll copy this, close it. Okay, open a SQL console. So click on any of the schemas or this header. We will enable the SQL console, paste it here for our reference. This will be used for the filter condition. Okay. Now what we'll do is we'll go to my schema. We'll go to the tables and we will go to ADRC. That's where we have to enter the record. So what we'll do is we'll right click, we will say generate, and we'll say select statement. So this generates the select statement from ADRC, all the columns, everything. So what we'll do is we will select everything from here. Okay, select everything, copy it. Okay, close this, go back to your SQL console, paste it here. And then what we'll do is we'll say insert into which table? ADRC. So you can just say Debanshu and this control space, Debanshu this BT2 dot ADR control space. I don't think control space. Okay, maybe with 2. No. Okay, so ADRC. Okay, we are inserting into my particular schema.adrc, and what are we inserting? We are inserting this entire thing. Sorry. Okay, we are doing select client number. I want to be the same. Address number is going to be the same. Date from I want to change. So what I will say, actually no, date from also I will not change. No, date from I have to change. Date from I have to change. Sorry?
Should the insert into not be on staging ADRC?
Oh yeah, you're right. That's a good catch. Maybe that's why it was not working. The control space. Yes, you're right. Staging. You're 100% right. So STA ADRC, we will insert into STA ADRC. There's no table called ADRC. There's a staging table and a virtual table. So we'll insert into staging table. Correct. Then we will say that date from should be, this is a new record, right? So the new record date from should be 2020-0801. Okay. As date from. Then we will change the name one. So what was the name one here? Let's see what was the name one. This guy. So we will copy this. Okay, close it, come back, and we will say name one. We will change it to what? Wait. Okay. So we'll change it to 2. Change it to 2, and I have to put a single quotes there because it's a hard-coded values I'm putting. Okay, as name 1. So we are changing the date from date 2. I don't want to change. I want to still keep it as 999 and 1231. That's fine. We will change the date 2 of the previous record later on. And I want to put a where condition. This is my where condition. Okay. From this ADRC where my address number is this, MANDT is this. Yes. Correct. Okay. So what are we doing? We are inserting a new record as selecting same record what is there for this particular condition, but we are changing the plant name, like the address, sorry, the plant address name, and we are changing the date from. So, okay, let's go back here and you will see now. After I do that, first let's come back to the data preview and see if there should be only one record. So right now there is just one record. After I do that, there should be another record for client 200 for this particular address number. Now it will have date from 1st of August till 999 and 1231, and the name should be name 2. Okay. So let's execute that. Okay. And also I will save this. Okay. So let's do a Control S to save it. Because I don't want to lose this, we are adding some important SQL, so we'll save it locally. You can also save it on server, but I'm showing you the locally also. So we'll say address, sorry, address update.
Devanshu, do we need to
SQL.
update our first record also?
Sorry, come again.
Do we need to update our first record also?
Yes, we have to. And that we will do after this. Okay. So first we are inserting a new record. Then we'll update the first record. So let's execute this. Invalid column name ADR NR. Okay. So because the column name is different, so we'll copy this column name. We'll go down. ADR NR. We will change it to the address number. Okay. And MANDT, there is no MANDT. What is the number? Name? Client. Client. So address is this, client is this. So it should now clear this first. It should insert one record. Let's see. Okay, so successfully executed, rows affected 1. That means if I now execute it again, it will give me 2 records now. Okay, so now it has the 2020 0801, okay, 991231, name 2. So now I have 2 records. Now I'll change this date 2 because it is overlapping right now. So that is not allowed. That is not correct. So I'll change it to 31st of July. So what I'll have to do, go back to your SQL, copy this table and copy this also because we will need the where condition. So you copy this and then we will write another piece of code with this. First, let's paste the one which we have. Okay. So then what we'll say, update A, set date 2 equals to, sorry, date 2 equals to 2020 07 31st. Okay, where, and I'll do a from also, from A, where my address number is this and client is this and there's another and date from is equal to, what is the date from for the first record? 0101, that one, right? So we'll copy this, come back here and paste the value here. So what I'm saying update this particular table record, set the date to 31st of July 2020, where my address number is this, client is this, and date from is this. Why this? Because this will identify the first record. So we'll update this particular, just select and execute. Okay, rows affected 1, so which is good. So let's refresh it. Okay, so now we have start of the time till 2027 31st, name 1, and 2020 0801 to 9991231, name 2. So this is what we did. What we did was we introduced time dependency for the same address number. So for this address number, now I have 2 addresses. One address is ending on 31st of July and starting from 1st of August, the new address came in, which is valid till end of time. Now let's go back to the requirement. First of all, did you understand this concept so far? Any questions on this SQL code which I executed? Any confusion, anyone? Okay. So now what?
I would like to ask, what is this update A? Why did you write A? I mean, you didn't pass the table name, right?
There is the table name with the alias. This is an alias I gave to the table name, and the same alias I am putting it here.
Okay.
Okay. You can also say update this particular thing. You can say that. Okay.
Right. Okay.
But I use this particular syntax where it is same as select clause. It will look like a select clause. Okay. Update clause. So I usually give the alias name. Why I give the alias name? Because if I have multiple columns, okay, in the where condition, or I have multiple columns in the set condition, then I can just use a dot, a dot, a dot. You don't have to write the entire table name dot.
Okay.
That's why I use the alias name. Okay. All right. So now with that time dependency introduced in the column ADRC, let's go back to requirement. Requirement says that pick the address, pick the plant address. This should be address based on current date. What is the current date? 8th of August. So which record should be picked?
Name 2.
Exactly. Name 2 should be picked, not name 1. Why? Because 8th of August falls between this validity, not this validity. So that is the requirement. So how we'll code it? It's not possible graphically. We'll create a table function. So let's go to the table function. So you go to repository. As I said, for table functions, you'll have to go to repository. Okay, VDI today is giving a little bit of trouble. Okay, let me close this again. Just give me a second, guys. I'll open a fresh session. Okay, so it's connected. I hope the performance will be slightly better now. Okay, so we are back. Now what we'll do is we'll go to repositories. We are in our package. We'll create a new package because we have a package for calculation views. So we'll create another package for table function. So we'll say new. And we don't, okay, there you go, repository package is there. So we'll click on repository package and dot, give a dot because parent package dot the child package, that's the naming convention. We'll give TF. TF stands for table function. Okay, click on next. Okay, this is not a structural package. We should be able to create objects. So I'm not clicking structural. Let's change that to English, United States, the language. There you go. Okay, everything else is fine. You can get the description, but I'm letting it go. That's fine. Clear for user. Okay, everything is fine. Click on finish. Okay, so we have a new package now for table function. Now we'll right click on that particular package. We'll say new. And if you don't find the table function here, click on other and you go for table. Just type table. And don't go to ABAP. We are not dealing with ABAP. We are dealing with HANA. So inside HANA, there is something called a table function. Okay. Now you give the name of the table function. So ZTF, because CV started with ZCV. So we will use the same naming convention consistency. ZTF underscore plant underscore ADDR, plant address, because we are dealing with plant address. So we'll just give this. The moment you hit tab on your keyboard, you will see that the extension HDB table function automatically gets appended at the end, which is defining that this particular file is a repository file with the extension table function. Click on finish. So a basic skeleton will be given to you for the table function, okay, which is your schema name. No, actually your user, then your schema.tf. No, sorry, my bad. This is basically your schema. This is your package, and this is your table function name. So this is your schema. So you can change the schema. Right now it's BW for user, but if you want to maintain the same consistency as your calculation view, you can simply change this to underscore sys underscore big, because sysbig is also the same schema where all your calculation views are created. The column views for the calculation views are created. If you want to have the same particular schema name, you can have it. If not, you can also create that in your particular schema if you want. Like for example, we have a schema called Devanshu SDA BT2. If you want to do that, you can also do that. There is no stopping. This is for the runtime. Okay, design time you are still creating in this particular package. So you will be able to see the package, but the runtime object will be created in this particular schema. Okay, so now we'll start creating the table function. So what we will do for the table function, we will say returns remove this returns table type. Just say returns table, because it has to return a structure, which is a table type structure. So we'll say returns table. Then you start the bracket and end the bracket somewhere down. Okay, we'll create the table structure here, and then we will start writing our code. Come on. Okay, so we'll start writing the code. Now, what is the final structure you want from this particular table function? The final structure should be exactly same as the calculation view final structure. So what is the calculation view final structure? Let me go to the CV. Come on. There's a slight lag today. Okay, so the CV structure is, let's go to semantics and see what is the CV structure. Sorry guys. Let's go to the CV. Come on. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, there's a lag. I have to click and I have to wait for a few seconds. I don't know why there's a lag. Usually there is not. Okay, so semantics. We are in semantics. So come on. Okay, so let's take a screenshot of this. Okay, so that if the screen changes, we still have it. So this is a screenshot. We have MANDT, works, planned, description, which is your name one, right? Then ADRNR, date from, date to, and the name one from the ADRC, which we have renamed to ADDR_DESC. Same output we want. Okay, so we will go to the table function, and then we will start the code like that. So here what you have to say is MANDT. Then you give the data type nvarchar. What is the length? The length is 3. Okay, then we have works, which is your nvarchar 4. Then you have, what was the screenshot? Let's go back. Okay, so we have name 1. Actually, not name 1. Let's give it plan description. Same, exactly same as that. So we will say, sorry, just cancel this. Okay, so we'll say plant _DESC, which is going to be your nvarchar 30. And then we have what? ADRNR, which is your nvarchar, I think 10. Then you have what? ADRNR, let me see. Plan description, ADRNR, then date to and date from. Okay, so we will remove this. So it is date to and date from. So we'll say date from, which is your nvarchar again, nvarchar 8. Okay, because the format is YYYYMMDD. So it is date from is that, and same date to, which is also, sorry, nvarchar 8. And then finally what we will do, sorry. And then we will have final as ADRNR DESC, ADRNR underscore DESC, which is your nvarchar 40. Okay, so this is our table structure. So we have exactly same table structure as our CV, which is MANDT works plant, MANDT works plant description. Okay, this is plant description, by the way, because works is the plant itself. Then we have the ADRNR, date from, date to, these are our nvarchar 8. Okay, and then we have the ADR DESC, which is your description of the address, nvarchar 40. Now you must be wondering, how do I know this particular length? Because here I don't see the length here. Okay, 3, 4, 30, 10, 8, 8, 40. So the way you can get the details of a particular CV and all the columns of that CV, the data type of that CV, there are two ways. So either you go to that particular CV, okay, and once you go to that particular CV, you can highlight that particular column, go to projection node, say for example, highlight that particular column, and below you will, in the properties, you will see length is 3, works length is 4, plan description length is 30, ADR NR is 10, etc. Right? nvarchar 10. But instead of going one by one, see if you have 100 fields, say for example, this is not an efficient way. So then what you have to do is you have to go to a particular view. There is a view in sys schema. So you can go to sys schema, expand the sys schema, go to the views, and there is a view called view underscore columns. So you can just put a filter, okay, and you can just say view underscore columns. This is a DB view inside sys schema. So expand that. There you go, view underscore columns, right click on it, say data preview, and you will see that we have schema name. This is your calculation view name under the column view name, your column name, your data type name, your length, everything is there. So I'll go to analysis because I want to filter, expand this filter pane. Then we'll just drag in the view name. Okay, go to the advanced filter, get the view name. Now we will, what we'll do is we will filter our view name. What is the view name we have? ZCV, sorry, ZCV underscore plant, right? So where is my ZCV plant? Actually, it's basically, it's taking the package name and the CV name. So what we'll say is, before this, I will just put Z Debanshu. I'll move this. Z Debanshu underscore BT2. There you go. So this is the one. Z Debanshu BT2 dot calculation view is a folder, and this is the CV. So if I want to get the details of this particular CV, filter it out. Now in the table output, you select the view name, then you get the column name. These are your column names. Okay, ADRC, address number, everything. You want to know the data type name. What is the data type? There you go, all are nvarchar, and now you want to know the length. So I'll just get the length. There you go. So if you want to know in one shot, what is the column data type and what is the length of those columns, you can go to this particular view columns DB view in sys schema, filter it with your calculation view name. Okay, the naming convention will be the package name / your CV name. And then you can get everything in one shot. So now let's compare. So address description should be 40. Okay, let me take a screenshot of this one. Okay, we'll go and just paste it here together. Okay, so now we have address 40, address 10, date to date from we know, MNDT is 3, and plan description is 30. So let's go to our code. Okay, plan description 30, MNDT 3, 4, address nvarchar 10, date from 8, and address description 40. Yes. So our structure is exactly same as the structure of the CV. Okay. Now we will start writing our code. So you'll write your code here. Okay, so what we'll do is, what we'll say is LT local table underscore return equals to, or I'll just say equals to, sorry, because of this lag, slight trouble. Okay, now what we'll say is we will select, what do we select? A dot MANDT, and I'll tell you why A. I'll give the alias name later. So we are selecting MANDT. We are selecting WERKS. Okay. We are selecting A dot name one as what? Plant underscore DESC. Okay. Then what are we selecting? ADRNR. So that is also from A, ADRNR. We are not changing the name there. Then we are selecting B dot date from B dot date to and B dot name one as your ADRNR underscore DESC. Okay. From, where are we selecting? From, we are selecting from the table, staging table. So Debanshu, control space. Okay, it's giving me again a little bit trouble, the lag. Okay, I'll just type it out. Okay, Debanshu underscore SDA underscore BT2 dot, what is the first table? STA underscore T01W, which is your A, left outer join. What is left outer join table? Again, same thing. I'll just copy it from here. Copy, paste it here. This is my ADRC B. Okay. On what? A dot MANDT equals to B dot client and A dot ADRNR equals to B dot ADDR. What was the name? Number something, right?
Yeah, number.
ADDR number, yes. And now comes our temporal condition, current underscore date, which is a standard variable in HANA, current date between, okay, B dot date from and B dot date, sorry, date 2. Okay, we will end it with a semicolon and then we'll say return. What do you return? The table which is there.
Empty return.
Correct. And every variable will be prefixed with a colon. So we'll say return LT underscore return. Semicolon. Okay, so this is the way you will write a table function. This is a very simple one, but in a real time, there will be very complex codes. You will have multiple joins, you will have some calculated columns, a lot of other things. But if you know how to write it in a basic syntax, you can expand on it and build on it. So let's save it first, activate it first. Okay, let's activate it. Completed successfully, so no syntax error, which is good. So let's revise what we did. So we first defined the structure, the output structure of this table function, okay, which is exactly same as our CV. Your client, your plant description, ADRNR, address number, date from date to address description. And then we are declaring a local table. This is a local table inside the code. which should be populated as your MANDT works name one as. Why I'm saying as? Because it has to match the output structure name. Okay. So plant description, address number, date from, date to, and this from my table A is the plant details, table B is the address details. Left outer join. Why? Because in the CV also we did the join as our left outer join. Okay. This symbol itself will tell you it's a left outer join. So we'll go there. And what we could not do in the CV is this particular line. Although it's one simple line, but it will give you the time dependent temporal join property. So there I am saying current date. Now why I am saying current date? If you want to test what is the value in current date. So what you do is open another SQL console. Okay. And just say select current underscore date from dummy. Okay. There is a public synonym called dummy in HANA. It's not so dummy. It is actually intelligent. So we'll say select current date from dummy. And then if you want to test it out, the current date is August 8, 2020. That means today's date. So that's exactly what I'm using inside my code. I'm saying August 8 should fall between the date from and date to of this particular table. Which table? ADRC table. Okay, you got it? Now let's create another CV. So now the next step is we have to create another CV. You can also modify this CV, and instead of all the joins and all, you can put a table function, but let's not disturb this. I want a graphical representation also to be there. Now we'll create another CV called calculation view, new calculation view, and we will say same thing. We will say ZCV underscore plant now underscore TF because it's a table function based. So we'll say TF. We'll keep it graphical. We will go to dimension. Okay. We'll keep it standard. Finish. And then what we will do is we will get another projection node for the best practice. Then go to your table function package and drag this table function on this projection node and just rename this to plant ADDR table function, something. Okay. Then you connect, you add everything to output. So I've added everything to output. Then you go here and just do auto layout to tidy things up. Then you go to projection node, add again to output. Everything is there. Semantics node, make sure it is cross client. That's important now. We know why. So we'll go to cross client, Control S, save it. Okay, sorry. This is trying to save locally. That's not what I want. So now you can activate it by Control F3. So when you press Control F3, activation completed successfully, which is good. Now, before I test in the CV, okay, I want to test in the SQL console, like individually. Can I test the table function individually? Yes, I can. Okay, so I'll close this and I'll go to our SQL statements because we have saved that SQL statement. So I want it to be part of that particular SQL statement, this one. Okay. Now I want to test the particular table function. So if I just drag it in here, okay, it's not coming. That's fine. What we'll do is we will go to this particular table function code. On the top, remember there is a particular format. So we'll copy this. Okay, this is the name of the table function with the schema name. So we'll come back here and we will say select star from this particular table function. There you go. Okay, we'll save this. Oh, sorry. Oh, what happened? Did I close? Oh my God, I closed it by mistake. My bad. Let's open again. It should bring us to the same SQL statement file. So should be intact there. Okay, so we have this. Now we will save this file. So it's already saved. Okay, now I'll do select from this. Oh, it says SQL syntax unterminated quote. Okay, so where did I unterminate quote? So this is the
There are double
unterminated
quotes
quote.
there.
Okay, will it run now? Let's see. Oh, error. It says could not find the table / view blah blah blah, the entire
I
thing.
think
Why?
that's the problem with the quotes, I think.
Problem with the code?
Quote, double quote.
So double quotes are there.
No, for each one you have to, the bench should batch to the TF you should.
No.
No?
I should not do that. Okay, let's try that. Okay, each one. So you're saying after dot, each one I should give.
No, basically the schema and the table you give, right? So similarly like that, the schema is this one.
Yeah.
And if you feel the table function is.
And this is the complete name of the table function.
Okay.
So quotes are already there. Then why it is not executed? Why is it saying cannot find? Anyone?
I think we just need to pass the schema and the table function name in the system. I think if we go into the schema, we'll find the table function. We can drag from there. It will be the correct path.
Yeah, but that's what I did, right? I copied from the code this particular name, and then I copied it here. Dragging will do the same thing. It will bring in sysbake, this. What am I missing?
Maybe we have to grant access for sysbake.
No, then it should say user not authorized. It's not saying user not authorized. It's saying cannot find the table view. So my question to you is select star from a table function possible, first of all?
Then I guess it's no.
Yeah, it is possible.
It is possible. Then why it is not finding that particular table function?
Do we need to execute it first? I mean,
that's what we are doing. We are trying to execute the table function, but it's not able to find. How else do you execute it? There is no other way to execute it.
The table function is not created yet. So I think
it's not activated yet.
It is activated. You want to see there is no gray diamond box. It is activated. You want to see the history of this? I'll show you the history of this. There is an active version from my user ID at this time. Then why it is not able to find? Come on, guys. Someone should tell me.
those bracket sign when we're defining it, do we need that?
Correct. Exactly. See, the differentiation between a table and a function is brackets. When you say brackets, you are saying it is not a simple table. It is a table function. There has to be a differentiation between a regular table and a table function. So I wanted to see someone attention to details. This is the bracket which is there in the definition also. I deliberately did not copy this, okay? But you need this here. Now let's do the select. Okay, so it is possible to do a select star from a table function, but in order to differentiate between a regular table and a function, you have to put the brackets. That's how SAP knows, or HANA knows, that it's a table function. It will try to find a function now. It will not try to find a table. Previously, it was trying to find a table. It did not find a table with this name. But when you gave bracket, now it did not find table. It went and said, okay, is there a table function? Yes, there is a table function. And it gave the value. So remember that. Same thing is for procedures also. When you execute a procedure, you have to give brackets there. Okay, that's how it will identify. Okay, so table function works. We know that the data is there. Now let's go to our CV and now execute it. And we will restrict it with this particular address number. So what should come up? Because current date is 8th of August. So what should come up now? Name 2 should come up. So we'll go to again I'll just expand the filter pane. We'll go to advanced filter. And now I will restrict this with our address number. Okay, paste it here. You can either select from here or you can paste it here also. Client, we will restrict it because there are multiple clients, we know, but we are only looking for 200. Now go to table and I will select the client. I will select description, address number, date from, date to, address description. So what got picked? Name 2 got picked, not name 1. Why? Because the code kicked in and this particular temporal condition worked and it restricted the data to name 2 only. Okay. So if you have a requirement of temporal joins, if you have a requirement of row table, you want to read the row tables, or if you want to loop, okay, another important condition where you will go for table function is loops. So if you have to loop on a certain table, you have to do a for loop or a if for loop. Usually for loop is preferred, but if you want any type of looping inside the code, then it is not usually possible with graphical CVs. Then you will go for table functions. So these are the certain customer scenarios which will mandate you to use table function, and this is how you will use table functions. This is the replacement of script-based CV. So when you create a CV, you found there are 2 options there, graphical and SQL script. Do not use SQL script. Instead of that, create a table function and use it in the table function. So with that, we'll take a quick 10 minutes break. Right now it's 10:01. Let's come back at 10:10. The next requirement, now the client is happy with this now, but the client is now becoming more fancy, and now the requirement is that the date should be restricted based on user provided date, not current date. User provided date, not current date. Now the user saw that you are capable of doing this. Now it's making your life a little bit more complex, and it's saying that don't give me the current date always. I will choose. If I give 8th of August, your name 2 should come. But if I give 31st of July, then name 1 should come. So it should be based on my input, not current date. That's the next thing we are going to implement. Okay, so we'll take a quick 10 minutes break and then we'll come back and implement the next requirement from the user. So I'll just pause the recording and I'll meet. Okay, logistics check quick. Can you see my screen and hear my voice okay?
Yes, Devanshu.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I know you have a lot of questions. Okay, again, humble request, hold on to that. We'll have the post-session Q&A and we'll take that because we have to cover a lot of ground. So if I take questions right now, we'll get distracted. All right, so now coming back to the fancy requirement from user. Actually not so fancy, this is a very common requirement, but for our purpose, let's call it fancy. So user says that now I will give the date and you restrict the date based on that. So first thing, okay, let me ask Shakti maybe. Shakti, tell me, if I have to accept something from user, how do we do that in a calculation view? What do we have to create to accept a user input?
Input parameters.
Correct. We have to first create something called input parameters. So this will be driven by input parameters. Okay. So let's quickly create the input parameter. So where do we create? In the semantics node? You go to parameters and variables and you will create a plus sign, and then in the plus sign you can create input parameter. So naming convention is IP underscore date. So user will provide the date. Okay. So I'll just give here date. And now I have option. You can use direct, or I can use column, or I can use derived from table, or I can use static list, or I can use derived from table and procedure. So what do I use? I will use maybe direct. Let's choose direct because the user has to choose a date. Now, if I choose direct, that means I'm not connecting it to any tables. I'm not connecting it to any procedure. I'm not connecting it to any static list, which I will provide, because user can select any date. I cannot just restrict that only these dates you select. He or she can choose any date. But I don't want the user to manually type the date. Usually when we select the date, we present a calendar to the user. Okay. Same thing in every like day-to-day operation also. When you have to choose a date, it's better to drive that from a calendar. And the way you can present a calendar to the user is via semantic type. So you have to choose a semantic type of date. There are 3 semantic types: blank, currency, unit of measure, and date. Blank means nothing will be shown, user have to manually type. Okay, but I want to make things easier for user, make it user intuitive, and that's why I'll select date. When you select date, you cannot select length. Okay, data type is by default date, but you can also select any other data type. When you select any other data type, then length and scale will get activated. So say for example, if I want n varchar, then you can give length. If I select decimal, then you can give length and scale both. But by default, it is date. So we'll keep it as it is. So we have semantic type of date because we want to present a calendar while choosing a date, and data type by default is date. We will leave it as it is. We'll click on OK. And by the way, did I make it mandatory? No, we can also make it mandatory. So let's make it mandatory. And then we'll say OK. Actually, you know what? We should provide it in the table function CV, not this CV, because this CV, we are not using that table function based code, right? It doesn't have a temporal condition. So I will rather just close this without saving. I'll not save. Rather, let's do it in the table function based CV. So we have the table function based CV here. Now here I'll go to the input parameters variable. Again, I'm going to do the input parameter. We'll give IP underscore date. Okay, direct, let's do no default value. I don't want default value. We'll make it mandatory. Okay, and then what we'll have to do is semantic type as date for the calendar to show up, and then data type is date is fine. Sorry, click on OK. It's done. Okay, now activate this, Control F3 as a shortcut. Okay, activated successfully, so which is good. Now let's go to the code. Now in our code, is the code handling any input from the user? Is it so far? No. There is nothing which says get the user input and then do something about it. Okay. Now we will add input parameters to the table function. So inside the bracket, you have to provide input and output parameters. There is nothing right now. So that means there is nothing inside the brackets, but now we have to get the date from the user. So we'll create a input parameter. So we'll say in underscore user underscore date, and we will give it n varchar. What should be the length, guys?
8.
How many says 8? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Why 8?
There was a date format in HANA year, month, and day.
Should it
So
be
you
8?
are saying that this particular input parameter format is 8. Is it?
Yes.
It should be 10.
10
10.
for
It should
external
be 10.
format of date.
So why MMDD 8?
8.
Yeah, but there will be slash in between dates, right?
Okay. So some people are saying 8, some people are saying 10. This is a very important aspect. If you don't handle it properly, your code will not work. So please remember this. When you are dealing with the SAP table dates, the columns in the table, SAP tables, they are usually of the format YYYY MMDD 8. But when you are defining the semantic type date and data type is date, this is not an internal format. This is an external format. That means the value will be YYYY dash mm dash dd. Okay, it will not be the internal format. When you are choosing from the calendar, it is external format. That means it is nvarchar 10, not 8. So here we have to make sure that we accept it properly. So it should be nvarchar 10, because we are dealing with date from the user. Right now we are not dealing with date in the table. Yes, in the table the format is YYYYMMDD, but the date which you are getting from the user is 10 with the dash. Okay, so we are accepting that. Now what we have to do is that we have to convert this 10 to 8. Why? Because when you will put a condition on the table, table has format 8, but user is giving 10. So we have to convert it. So to convert it, what we'll do is we'll first declare a variable. So the way you declare is declare lv underscore date, format is nvarchar 8. Now this guy will have 8, and I'm going to initialize this with a function which is called 2dats. And in 2dats, I will take in underscore user underscore date. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I am declaring a variable of length 8, but then I'm initializing it. This is the symbol for initializing a variable. Initializing it to user date converted to 2dats. 2dats is a function in SAP HANA database which converts the incoming 10-digit to outgoing 8-digit. So I'm already initializing that. So you can give, just for reference, you can put a comment here. Okay. So you can say converting user provided 10-digit date to 8-digit internal format. Okay, just for your understanding that what we are doing here. Now what I will say is everything will remain same, but in the AND condition, what I will say? Anyone? What should be the code now?
In user date, we need to mention here.
In user date, do we have to mention, or LV date we need to mention?
It will be LV date.
LV date we have to mention. Why LV date?
Because that is storing the internal format.
Correct. Because that has 8-digit format. Okay. Not 10-digit format. And table has 8 digits. So whenever you are filtering the table data, 8 digits should go, not the 10 digit. Otherwise the code will not work because dash is not there in the table. Okay. Let's activate this. Okay, activate successfully, which is good. So let's revisit what we did. We now introduced an input parameter, which is in user date of type nvarchar 10, because it is an external format from user. Then we are converting that to the internal format using a standard function called 2_dats. And then we are putting that particular 8-digit converted date and putting it into the temporal condition. Okay.
Does every declared variable have to have the colon before you use it?
Like here?
Yes.
Yes, it is preferred. I mean, it's not mandatory. Sometimes it works without the colon also. But as a best practice, use colon always if you are using the variable. Because what we have seen is that without the colon, sometimes it can give you inconsistent results also. It will not give you any syntax error. Syntax error might say okay, but actual data might have inconsistencies. So as a best practice, please use colon before the variables if you're using.
How about colon is equal to? What's the best practice? When is that?
This is to initialize. See, if you want an initial value to be there, then you can do colon equal to for initializing. If you don't want to initialize, you can just keep it like that. Okay. And then you say that LV underscore date equal to, then you don't need colon.
All right, thanks.
Okay, no, maybe this is not correct. What you can say is select. You can say select. I'll give you another way. Okay, so you can say select two dates, date into your LV date. That's also possible. Sorry, because of the lag, into your LV underscore date. Select two dates, this into LV date from dummy. That also is possible. There is, maybe the colon is not required into. Yeah, okay. So when you are using the into, colon is not required, but when you are using in the expression, colon is required. So select two dates in user date into LV date from dummy is another way to initialize it. So here you are just declaring the variable, not initializing it. Here you are actually putting the value. That's possible. But as a best practice or in a simpler code, lesser code, I have just initialized it right away. Now, when you want to initialize it right away, then you will use something called colon equal to.
Okay, thanks a bunch.
No problem. I'll just put it back. Unfortunately, Control Z is not working in the VDI, so I have to write it again. Okay, so let's activate it again. Control F3. So what we did, we introduced an input parameter of date, semantic type date, and varchar 10, of course, that is because we did not change the default type. Okay, if you would have changed the default type, then maybe the conversion was not required, but we left it as it is. So we converted it with the first we declared a variable, we converted that, assigned that to the variable, and then in the where condition, we provided that particular LV date. Is that all? Do we need to do anything else, or is it ready for us?
No, you need to map the input parameter with calculation view.
Correct. See, what I did is, so far I included a input parameter here, and I declared another input parameter here. Is the name same for input parameter? This is in user date, and this is IP underscore date. So that means this is a separate entity, and the input parameter I created inside the table function is a separate entity. They are not connected yet. The final step is to connect them, meaning whatever this guy has, it has to pass it down to this guy. How you do that? You do that by mapping. It is called mapping of input parameters. And the way you will map it is, you will go here and select something called mapping. Okay. So we have mapping from data sources, mapping from value help, mapping from value help of attributes, and procedure scalar function. So you can click here. It will called manage mapping. It will bring a box of manage mapping. Now here it is data source. We don't have anything from the data source for value help, but we do have something called the procedure or scalar function. No, for input parameters, is it the one, or I think procedure? No. Wait a second. From table function, one second. This is the conversion function. From here only I should be able to map. Not value help, but procedure killer function.
I guess you need to remove the table function and again remap it.
Why should I remove the table function? See, the table function is fine. If I open it from here, it is having that in user date, and it is reflecting the correct code.
In input parameter,
yeah, 1 second.
data type.
No, data type is fine.
No, parameter type. Edit the input parameter.
Oh, 1 second. Oh, manage mappings, but here.
Usually in other like a map and all, when you call a function, that time in the bracket we pass the value. So if you map it again, it asks for.
You have to map it. Definitely, you have to map it, your input parameters. Why I'm not able to do the manage mapping here? Okay, let me close everything and open it again. 1 second. Let me activate this calculation view again. And just auto layout. Control F3. Okay, activation is done. Let me close and open it again. I'll just save this. And I'll close everything. Okay, sometimes a refresh issue also happens. So we'll go to repository. We will again click on calculation views, checkout, and replan TF. Manage mapping is not here. Let me see from here.
Is it because you're saying it direct?
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So it was a refresh issue. Okay. Sometimes what happens is when you create a calculation view based on a table function and you modify the table function, you have to activate the CV again and you have to close and open it again. So basically it was a refresh issue. So now in the mapping, there are 4 things: data sources, value help CVs for input parameter variable, value help for attributes, and procedure killer function. We are not creating a procedure here or a scalar function, it's a table function. So this is not applicable. Value help is not applicable. Input parameter is, value help again is not applicable. Data sources is applicable. Why? Because the table function is our data source. So whatever you put in a projection node, either it's a CV, you can provide another CV or a table function, it becomes a data source. So now we have in user date, we have to map it to IP date. And this is how you are saying that pass the IP date, whatever user has provided, to the in user date. This is the last step. Now you have to activate, don't forget to activate. Make sure it is activated successfully. Yes, activated successfully. Now let's execute this CV. And now it will prompt me to the date. Now it should bring me the calendar. Okay, there you go. So I can choose from the calendar now. Now if I choose 31st of August, okay, I choose 31st of August. Now what should come up as my address, guys?
Name 1.
Correct. Let's see if that is working. So I will just again do the same thing. ADRNR, what was the value? Okay, and client also I'll just restrict it to 200. So from date to date this. So now the value is name 1 from beginning of time to 31st of July, because I gave the date as 31st of July. Now if you execute it again And now it will ask you again. Now let me give 1st of August. Okay, 1st of August. Now it will fall under name 2 validity. So now the value should be name 2. The filters are gone, so I'll just quickly put the filter again. So now the value is name 2. So now we have made it dynamic. It's previously it was static, meaning always based on current date. Now we are taking the user input and passing on to the input parameter of the table function, which is restricting the code dynamically based on user date. This is how you can use input parameter based table function restrictions. Okay.
Can we also pass the range here as an input?
Yes, you can pass the range. In that case, 2 input parameters, create a 2 input parameters. Okay. And in the code, you can say between this input parameter and the other input parameter. And in that case, you have to define 2 input parameters in the code. Right now, in the bracket, there was just 1.
Right.
So you can do 2, you can do 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's 10:34. I wanted to cover the transaction data cube also, but let's stop here. Tomorrow, we are going to see the transaction data, which is cube, and then we will create the cube with star join. And then finally, we will end up with database procedures. Yes, I know you have questions. Just give me 5-10 minutes more. Then we will actually jump to pure Q&A session. So don't worry. So then we will look into database procedures. We will look into the access job creation, and we will stop there. That will be our final native HANA development end. Now, before I go into the Q&A for today, I quickly want to show you some tricks you can do. So say, for example, you want to rename this particular CV. See, the material one was ZCV material dim, but planned we forgot. What did we forget? We forgot the underscore dim, the naming convention. So the reviewer, your architect, whoever is the architect who is doing the review, he or she says, hey, your naming convention is not consistent. Please make it consistent. Now you have to rename this particular CV. How do you rename this CV? Is it possible in repository view? Anyone?
No.
So let's right click on it and see. We have checkout, we have delete, we have move, we have reset to, copy, qualified name, generate, validate. No, renaming is not there. So renaming is not possible in repository. You have to go to systems and you have to go to content. Okay. So I'll minimize the catalog. You have to go to content, and under content, you will have the package, and under package, we have CVs, and under CV, just check it out. Okay. Oh, here, oh, sorry. Here you cannot check it out because here we are dealing with direct server. So I'll just refresh this instead of checking out. So then our calculation view, the table function is available here. Plant is available here, material available. Now I have to rename the plant. So I'll right click on this. I will say refactor and rename. So under refactor, I have 2 options. Move, that means change the package from one package to another package, that is move. And another one is rename. I can rename this. Now I'll rename it to ZCV underscore plant underscore dim. Click on next. Once you click on next, what it will check is, it will check whether this particular renaming is possible without any issues. So no errors found. And it will also check whether this particular CV is used in any other CV or not. So if you have a hierarchy of CVs, CV inside a CV inside a CV, which in real time is the scenario, right? It also checks that what other impacted CVs are there where this particular CV is used. And when you rename it, it makes sure that the other impacted CVs are also updated. So that is the benefit of using the refactor rename. So click on finish. Now refactoring objects is running, completed successfully, but it's not the end right now. After refactoring, renaming, you have to activate them as well. So that's an additional step. You will see the gray diamond box here, which means this is inactive. So right click, and say activate. Now, when you say activate, there will be 2 CVs you have to activate. What are the 2 CVs? First one is the renamed one. Second one is the deleted one. Please do not forget to do that. If you forget to if you forget to activate the deleted ones, the deleted one will still stay in the repository and can lock your repository or make it inconsistent. Okay, this issue we have faced a lot of times. So as a best practice, please make sure when you activate a renamed CV, you also activate the deleted CV. What the activation will do is, it will activate this new CV and it will permanently, cleanly delete from the repository the CV which is deleted, previous name. So both the CV should be there. And if you have any impacted CVs, say for example, this particular CV was used in 10 other CVs, then make sure all the 10 are also selected in the activation and activate them together. Okay, it says activate and ignore inconsistency in the affected objects, which is a standard way, but it is you can also stop the activation in case there is an inconsistency in the affected calculation views. So I'll just activate that. Hold on, 1 second. Okay, so this is activated successfully. So now we have plan dimension activated and the previous one is cleanly deleted from the repository. Okay. And if you have to move this CV from one package to another package, then what you do is you will just right click on it, again the same thing, refactor, move. Now when you move, it will ask you which package destination, select your destination, you will select the different package and you will move it. So if you want to move the location of the calculation view or you have to rename a calculation view, you cannot do that in repository. Actually move you can do in repository, because if you right click on it, there is a option called move, but sometimes it does not work properly. For me, sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work. Okay. So I always come to systems and I do the movement or the renaming, which is a safer place to do so. Okay. So I just wanted to show you some tricks like that, which is possible in system, not in repository. So with that, we will stop the recording for the main class. And now we are entering the questions and answer session post class. People who cannot attend or, they have other things to attend to, or if it's late for you, please feel free to drop off. Don't worry, the recording will be there for Q&A and it will be shared. So thank you. And I will, start the post Q&A session. So let me stop.